Bujo peeps. That's hello in Potawatomi, peeps. Our Star Nations community. Welcome to Star Nations community's main fan page here on Facebook and our morning live stream about the energy for today card draw that I do almost every morning, and share that with all of you. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Neshi Lokatz, and I live in northwestern Wisconsin, about an hour east of the Mississippi. And this morning we woke up to gentle rain, which is nice because we need the rain. It was one of those rains where, you know, if you had your windows open just a little bit and you can hear it, you know, it was good sleeping weather. Cooler than it was yesterday. Hey, Mary, good morning. Hello to you. Hello to you. So what's your Sunday morning like, Mary? Obviously you're not at the cabin because you're here with me, which means Mary has internet connection. You know, isn't it fun though to go to places that you're kind of off the grid a little bit? You know, you might have electricity and running water, maybe. But it's also fun not to have internet connection or a cell tower, and you're kind of away from this kind of stuff. Although this is how I make my living these days, that has to be a little bit of a break is good though, don't you think? I do. Okay, Mary says her Sunday is lazy. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it quite that here because, you know, with Paul and all that, but it's close. It's close to that. We're kind of back into a normal kind of groove a little bit. Sunday morning paper, coffee. I went and got donuts. Usually that's Paul's trick. Yeah, so it's a little bit slower paced. For those who are wondering how Paul's doing, he's doing so much better. This morning he looks pretty darn good. He had a full night's sleep, which means so did I. And Mom was good, so I didn't have to get up for her. So I got 8 hours. That doesn't happen very often. So 8 hours, it feels good. Good morning, Stephanie. And so he's doing much better. Thank you all for all the prayers and good wishes and good thoughts coming our way and helping us support us through this. It was very much appreciated, very much so. Good morning, Mary Summers. Good to have you here with us on this Sunday, August 5th. You know, with all the hubbub and everything going on at my house, you know, I remembered late in the day that it is my BFF's birthday from grade school and high school. And so I ended up sending her an electronic, you know, one of those text messages with a picture and well wishes and that kind of thing. Hopefully we'll be able to connect today and have a nice conversation. We haven't talked in a few months, and it'll be good to hear her voice. So Marley, if you're out there, because Sunday morning, sometimes she's out watching a little TV or doing a little surfing on the net. Doesn't happen that often. But if you're out there and you see this, happy birthday. Happy birthday. Yeah. She and I go way back. We go all the way back to the 3rd grade. And I guess, Marley, I said 3rd grade because she thinks it's the 4th grade. It's an ongoing, it's kind of a fun kind of jest back and forth. But, you know, for a while there, it was, no, we met in 3rd grade. No, we met in 4th grade. Does it really matter? No. But she is one of those people in my life that has known me since, you know, way back when. And so we've grown up together. Yeah. Good morning, Nan. We're just kind of chatting away here before we get into this. And for those people who are just joining us who haven't been for a while, we switched decks. We went from Jamie Sam's The Sacred Path deck to this deck. And this is the Sacred Geometry Oracle deck by Francine Hart. Copyrighted in 2001. I got this book, this deck, way back in 2002 when I was just starting out understanding, looking, searching for information about sacred geometry. I had just, I believe when I got this book, I had just activated my Merkaba and was in the midst of doing the meditation that we had to do for 90 days. 30 days, 3 months before your Merkaba would go or could go permanent. And so I was observing as much as I could about sacred geometry at the time. And in this particular deck, usually what happens for the card draw for the day, and I've been doing this for a long time, long time, years. But it wasn't until I think this past fall, I started sharing some of the information, like a quote or two on our Instagram account for Star Nations. And then come May, I had this bright idea that maybe those here in our community at Star Nations on Facebook would be interested in kind of the backstory and have maybe a conversation about the card that was drawn. And I used to just draw one card just to see what was the energy of the day that was most important for us to know about. And so anyway, this particular deck is more than just one card. We're using the card layout where we draw two cards, and the first card is about the energies, goes on the right side of the card layout, goes on the right side, and it is about the male energies. It's about thought and logic, the brain, and that goes on the right side. That's the first card that's drawn. The second card goes on the left, which is the female energies, about intuition and feeling. All right. And so when we have those two cards, the information, it comes to us in a balanced way and in a holistic way. Okay. So the first card that was drawn this morning is this one. It's called Chakana, not Chikana, but Chakana. Chakana. And this is a well-known symbol in South America. Yeah, the sacred geometry. And how Francine describes this, Francine Hart, who's the author of this deck, what she says, and I found it very interesting, is that she says the square cross of the Andean people of South America. And so when I think of Andean, my mind goes to Machu Picchu, right? Don't know. There's a lot more down there in South America than just Machu Picchu. But I think about that, and I think about the Incan road, right? She says it relates directly to the Southern Cross, the predominant feature in the night sky, and also to the concept of spirit moving in the lives of the people. So how spirit moves through, or life force energy moves through the people. She says there are steps and levels, because we can kind of see that. Steps and levels of the Chakana indicate the progression of the movement from matter to spirit. Okay, so it's the movement from the physical to the spirit, the Chakana. She says that it's the shaman's journey and the path of the initiate. Shaman's journey in the path of the initiate. When you kind of look at it, it almost, okay, this is how it felt to me, is that it almost draws you in from the outside edges in. Yeah, that's kind of what it felt like to me. So it must be that when you're talking about the matter into spirit, I'm thinking about the world, the physical world, and into our soul or our spirit and into our heart, right? So where our spirit resides is in our high heart, and so that kind of makes sense to me about how it feels like it's drawing me inward. Yeah. Some people might call it an optical illusion, maybe. She goes on to say that this card reminds us to acknowledge the place at which you stand and at this moment in this time and place. From this vantage point, visualize the past, present, and future as holographic. I can't read this morning. Holographic and whole. It's multidimensional, in a constant state of change, and yet perfect in every moment. So when she says a constant state of change, from a feng shui point of view, the one constant is that energy is always moving. It's constantly moving. Even though it may seem slow or stuck, it's still moving, still changing. Yeah. Yeah, I like that. And I could almost see this design on a drum head, or possibly even maybe some beadwork. Yeah, it would be an easy one to paint, and easy one to beadwork, depending on what size beads you use. Yeah. Chakana. So it's about progress, she says. And when she's talking about standing in this moment and turning our attention to the past, the present, and the future, when I read that, I had to sit and think about how in much of my studies, learning about how time is spherical. It's not linear, okay? And so that we can sense everything in the present moment, because everything is happening right now. If you believe in past lives, you might consider expanding that and finding out more about parallel lives. Because in a parallel life, it's not so much in the past as it is happening in another dimension right next door. Okay. Same way with the future. And that in that spherical thinking, spherical feeling or sensing, we can sense the entire environment around us at all times, right? And I was trying to explain this to Paul the other day, the sense, and he he's so funny sometimes. He says, "Oh, it's like that Clint Eastwood movie with is it Pale Rider? No, it's not. I can't think of the name of it. But anyway, in there he is traveling, and he has this older Native American man with him, and he also meets a younger Native American woman, and so the three of them are traveling together, right? And the old man is constantly sneaking up on Clint Eastwood, right? And Clint tries to sneak up on him, and he can't do it. And the elderly Indian man says, only an Indian can sneak up on an Indian. And so Paul was using that phrase about the sensing of spherically, is that when we sense spherically, we can feel the energies as they move and change. So if somebody came in and you didn't see them come in, you could kind of feel the change in the environment, because something else is there, right? Hey, Jules is here. Good morning, Jules. For those who just joined us, this is the first card, called Chakana. It's Andean, South American, and it is a shape that indicates the progression of movement from matter to spirit. It's the shaman's journey and the path of the initiate. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, the seeing or sensing spherically, right? Here's another one. There was a time when we had some company here from Michigan, and we were going to be. They're a very artistic family, and we were doing a weekend of painting, right? And they were using the drum heads, or at least painting or drawing out the image that they wanted on their drum head. And so one evening we were out by the fire, and we were out there talking and drumming and that sort of thing. And their mom was starting to get tired, and so we were going to bring her inside, and she was going to get ready for bed. Well, we didn't have any of the lights on. We had a light on in the fourth season. And so anyway, we came in. Well, that early morning, Paul gets up to let Ginger out. And that was our dog at the time. And he said he opened up the four season door from the kitchen, and there was a bat that flew in. And so he wakes me up. And we're trying to catch this bat, right? Couldn't do it. And he had to go to work. So and he was thinking we should get the ladies up and let them know. And I said, you know what? We'll just let them sleep. When they get up, I'll let them know, and then maybe we could look for it together. And that's what we did. Couldn't find it. And so anyway, what they left like on a Sunday afternoon, and so Monday morning was the first day that I had been in the house alone, and Paul had already gone to work, and Ginger was on the couch sleeping, and I get up and I'm pouring my coffee, and I walk into the living room, and you know how you feel like when you think, well, there's something different here. What's different in here? And I'm looking around. It felt different, and it actually felt like somebody was looking at me. So anyway, here I am. I'm walking around the living room with my cup of coffee, and I'm going, okay, there's something here that's just not quite right. It doesn't feel the same. And I'm looking at Ginger, and she's sleeping. She seems to be okay. And I turned around, and they're hanging from part of the dental work on the mantle over the fireplace is the bat. Oh my God. Okay, so anyway, I call Paul. He comes home, and we take care of the bat. But that's the sensing that I'm trying to explain or share with you, is that there's a way to be able to sense your environment that way, and we're built to do that. We are built to do that. We remember how to do that, and I believe that this particular symbol, the sacred geometry symbol, can help us do that spherically. Yeah. That makes sense. And remember, this is the first card, and this is the card that was in the right hand position of the card layout, which means it carries the male logical thinking position. Okay. All right. Now the second card. The second card that came is this one, the triangle. The triangle. It's also known as a tetrahedron. It's one of the platonic solids. And if you notice up at the top symbol, there's two circles. And notice how the apexes of the triangle, where they lie on the intersection of those circles. And right in the center is where the two circles overlap, right? And seen that? In that overlap, it's called the vesica piscis. And the vesica piscis is where let there be light. It's that spark of light, of life force. This is a very interesting card, triangle. And that's the second card. So it's in the position of the female energy, which is intuition and emotions, feelings, right? So in Francine's description that she writes about the triangle, this is what she says, is that many things comes in threes, especially when you're Celtic, right? Or Irish. The beginning, the middle, the end. Mother, father, child. And the cosmologies of many cultures view the existence as having three levels. They teach us to access our lower selves through the connection of Grandmother Earth or Mother Earth. The next is the middle self, or the physical form, and that's where we experience ourselves, right? And finally, we communicate with our higher self seen as coming from beyond, often from Father, Son, or the stars. This synthesis of body, mind, and spirit brings balance, strength, and completion to our human existence, right? And she goes on to say that the card denotes movement towards strength and completion, that you're moving on a path that puts you in touch with the synthesis of elements of growth, joy, and freedom. Wherever you are on the path, take a moment to acknowledge the progress you're making and renew your resolve to act in accordance with that which strengthens and assists you in enjoying and fulfilling your life's purpose. All that from the triangle. Yeah. All right. Jules is saying, good morning, Neshi. Good morning, Jules. And Mary is saying, it can be uncomfortable, too difficult to feel and sense so much around us. Yes, it can. Yes, it can, especially when you're just realizing that you may be empathic, okay? And almost everybody is, really. It depends on how much, it's on that continuum from very little to extremely and everything in between. And sometimes when we first acknowledge it, or we say, oh yeah, I can remember when people in my life would tell me, oh, you're just too sensitive, or, get over it. You're always so emotional. All right. So many times that is the empath that they were referring to. And we haven't learned how to establish those boundaries. We sometimes don't even see it as a gift to be empathic. And so when we're in places like groups of people, Walmart comes to mind, when we're at the movies or at the airport, someplace where there's large groups of people, sometimes it can be so overwhelming because we're literally feeling so much information is coming in. And it's just not from the people around us. It's also from the environment. It's from, the building. It's from the location. Even if it's outdoors, depending on what it is. I remember being at a concert here in Toma, at Fort McCoy, the very first time we went there, and there was lots of people there, and they held it outdoors, thank goodness. But even there, outside, sensing, feeling the energy of the land there all at the same time, it can be overwhelming. And for some people, it might actually be so overwhelming that when you start drawing in, then you're very vulnerable, right? You're feeling vulnerable. Yeah. So as an empath, what I can tell you is, good morning, Rochelle. Had a difficult time reaching me. Oh, that's interesting. And Jocelyn, she's just joined. Good morning, Jocelyn. So as an empath, I can share with you that recognizing it is the first step, right? Is that you're feeling someone else's feelings, whether it's another two-legged or it's the location, your physical location. And the second part is to recognize that what you're feeling may not even be your feelings, may not be your own aches and pains, might not be your own thoughts. It could belong to someone else, and you're like an antenna picking it up, right? And so, much like an antenna, you can either dial it in to focus in on it and see what that really is. A lot of healers do that. Or what you do is you turn it down, so it's still there, but it's not as loud, it's not as intrusive. Okay. And it's that turning down is when you learn how to set up your own boundaries. You set up the boundaries, and you're working with your spiritual team. You're asking your team for help. Please help me set up the boundary here. This is the boundary. I don't want to feel everybody's feelings. Turn them down. There's no need for me to feel everybody's feelings in this moment. I'm here to enjoy myself. I'm listening to a concert, that kind of thing. It's kind of like a protection circle to keep out the lower negative vibrations, and anything that is joyful and love and peace and kindness can come through, but all the other stuff stays out, right? And we learn how to do that through practice, applying it, making sure that you have your protection field up. And when you get up in the morning, I used to do it when I would be brushing my teeth, remembering, talking to my spiritual team, getting the protection group up and around me. And then at night before you go to bed. So basically every 12 hours, making sure your field is up, your boundary for protection is up. And so that's what I can share. That's what I can share with you. So it doesn't feel so uncomfortable. Now things may come through. You can't be 100% contained, like hermetically contained, because that's not life. There will be some energies that come through, some emotions, and that is, then you talk to your spiritual team. Why do I have to feel that? Why do I have to notice that? Your higher self is the one that is bringing it through and feeling it, because it's meant for you to notice, or do something with. It's part of a life lesson. If you're a healer, that's an entirely different thing. Something's come through and it's like, okay, I got to turn my attention to it. That kind of thing. I hope that's helpful, Mary. That's a little bit in a nutshell. There's lots of classes. In fact, a good friend of mine who lives in the Madison area, Deborah Morell, she is a shamanic healer. She does a class, and I'm trying to get her to do them up here, with empaths, and how to claim your gift and to be able to master that gift. Yeah. Yep. All right. Yeah. Mary's going, yes, vulnerable and drawing in. Yeah. And it's okay to draw your energy in, especially when you're like in an airport or something like that. It's okay. Bring it in close. Nothing wrong with that. But make sure you have your protection up and those on your spiritual team that assists you with that, because you don't need to be vulnerable. No, don't need to do that. And Mary's going, like a hearing aid. Yes, exactly. My father-in-law, what he used to do with his hearing aids is that, he sometimes he'd turn them all the way off because he didn't want to hear what was going on around him, especially during family stuff, kind of block all that stuff out. Yeah. Yeah. And Rochelle is saying, put a white light around me. Exactly. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you do know Deborah, Mary, you do. She does offer classes. You can find her online, and she's right here on Facebook too. If you type in her name, she'll come up and you can friend her. And in fact, I think she's got a class coming up in September, if I remember right. You can check it out though. And if I can always put her contact information in the comments after the live stream's done. Okay, and that way you have it. So let's talk a little bit about this, the triangle. So the triangle, Francine is saying that it denotes movement towards strength and completion, that you're moving on the life path that puts you in touch with the synthesis of the elements of growth, joy, and freedom. And she says that wherever we are on the path, take a moment to acknowledge the progress, and that we're fulfilling our life's purpose. And so many people ask me, students ask me, I want to know what my life purpose is. What am I supposed to be doing here? I want to complete what I'm doing here, but I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing. Right? And to me, when I get that question, is that you're already you're already well on the path with that because you're asking, because you know that there is something. Hey, Mervyn Kelly's just joined us too. Good afternoon, Mervyn. He's over across the pond in England. Yeah, and he just had a birthday a couple days ago. Or it felt like a couple days ago. It could have been yesterday. All right, so with a triangle, known as a tetrahedron, when it's facing down, or let's start with this because she has it facing up. When it's facing up, when the apex, I want to mark my page here so I don't lose it. Lose my page. There. When the apex, let's see, the apex right there is pointing up. It's like that, right? That is known as the male tetrahedron. The male tetrahedron is because it's facing the sky. It's facing grandfather sky. And the stars. It's about our thoughts, the logic, that part of us. When the apex is facing up, in the up position. When it's facing down, like that, and the apex is pointing downward, that is the female tetrahedron, because it's facing the earth. It's drawing energy in, up from the earth. And so it has to do with emotions, feelings, intuition, that part of us. And so when you have a triangle, you can decide how to use it. If you want to have more logic, if you're trying to see something with the mental mind for clarity, you can use the male tetrahedron to do that. How? You can just have one and just be looking at it and thinking about the situation or the event that occurred. And after a while, you don't even need to see it, the picture of it. You can just think of it. You can just think of the male tetrahedron in that imagery in your mind, and you can use the energy of that to help understand with some clarity around logic, using logic to understand a situation. Now, most of us, because of the society that we grew up in, that we live in, this is what we go to most often to understand something. We go to our thoughts and our logic. It's almost automatic. It's, dare I say, habitual. We're in a rut. Yes, habitual. If we can approach a situation that's occurred, an event, and using sacred geometry, you can use the tetrahedron that is the female tetrahedron with the apex moving down, and go to the emotions, the feelings, the intuition. So in other words, you'd be asking your spiritual team, using the energy of the female tetrahedron, that to help you to see what's really going on. I would like to feel the clarity of this situation. What was my most strongest emotion around the situation? Was it fear? Was it anger, sadness, happiness, joy? What was the most intense feeling that you felt in that situation? And you look at that and you think, okay, so what's underneath that? What's underneath that emotion? Why did it make me angry? Why did it make me that angry? You know, and then going to the intuition part of it. Where have I felt this before in that intensity? And so you can start understanding those feelings and using your intuition to kind of hone in on what was this really about? Because most times on the surface, if we're talking about anger, we're looking at the surface of it, not the depth of it. And the surface of it could be, we'll use the one from the recent encounter with medical staff, is that the doctors did not have good communication between them. And I could see that. And getting contradictory kind of information, right? And finally, I just said, like the third one, I finally said, stop. We need to get a handle on this, because this is the third different. And later that day, that evening, I had to spend a little time on my own, quiet, going through the events of that. And why did that make me so angry? What was underneath it, that feeling of it, and so I had to take some time with that, and going to the emotion and going, okay, show me where this really lies, what's really underneath it. And there was fear, because it's about Paul's health, but more than that, it had that vulnerability of where you place your energy and your power when it comes to the medical world. Rather than being a part of it, having your medical team, is that in many of our belief systems here in the West, is that you hand it over to the medical world, and they take control of your life, basically. And so that's where it went for me. And it really didn't have much to do with I don't want to say it this way, but it's kind of hard not to, that what I was feeling had very little to do with Paul. Yeah, it was my own stuff that I was going through. And Paul's situation was a catalyst for it. And he was going through his own stuff too, but for me, it was that piece of that anger that I thought, okay, where did that really come from? And trying to understand that situation. So I said, so what am I learning here? Because I really want to be able to learn this with some grace and not so much the anger piece. And so that's what I'm talking about, is that if we go to the feelings and the intuition first, rather than, I'm not saying we shouldn't use the logic and the mental thoughts, is that is to be able to go to your emotions first, and then to understand the logic of it. Does that make sense? Because it almost feels, for some people, it might feel like it's backwards, but it really isn't. Rochelle says, the basic core emotions are mad, sad, glad, and afraid. Then there are the subcategories. Yes. Yep. And the basic ones, the mad, sad, glad, and afraid, those are the ones that we see on the surface. Those are the ones that we show the world. Okay. But it's the ones that are underneath. And the deeper we go to understand it, we get into what you're calling the subcategories. And that is where the growth is. That's where the growth is. Yeah. And I do find when we have an event, a situation, when we're right in the middle of it, God, we don't think this way at all. We don't say, oh, yay, I'm having a life lesson. Let's get in there and really do this good, We're really right in the middle of it, and you don't even think of it that way. It's not until you have to take a step away from it and try to get a more expansive view of it, or a higher elevated view of what's really going on here. And generally speaking, that's not when you're right in the middle of it. Yeah, that's like the main act of the play, was when you're right in the middle of it. Rochelle's agreeing. Yes, need to go further, deeper. Yeah, and the recognizing that when was the last time I felt it like this? Because those two events are related then, and maybe it's a chance to go to learn that lesson, that aspect of it in a deeper way, or another. How do I want to say this? Another part of your bodies, because we go through all of the events, all of the life lessons in all four of our bodies. And so if you're experiencing it, to learn it on the physical, the mental, the spiritual, right, and the emotional, those four bodies. And once we able to learn that lesson and to take it in through all of the bodies, is when we reach completion and a much deeper level of wisdom, right? And so sometimes it does feel like, I thought I handled this. I thought I got this one. And it's possible you did, but now we're taking the pass through maybe the mental body of it, or the emotional body of it. And so that's what it means when I say deeper. We get to go to another level of it. And in a way, when we can think of it that way or feel about it that way, we really do have a much deeper understanding of our soul and our soul growth in order to do that. And things like this, the sacred geometry images, can certainly help us. Now, at the top image where you got the double circles and where they overlap over the triangle, the vesica piscis, there's a lot of energy in the center there where the circles overlap and with the triangle. The triangle, the element the triangle represents is fire. Okay. And so when you're looking at that top image with that triangle and the two circles overlapped in the center, there's an immense amount of energy there, because it is the element of fire, and it is where the energy of those two circles meet, called the vesica piscis. It's let there be light. It's that spark of light, which is the spark of life. Yeah, that would be another good symbol, a symbol to have, like on a, I don't know, maybe even a tattoo. That's a lot of energy to carry around. It almost kind of reminds me of Harry Potter. And what were that? Was the Horcruxes? Was that it? No, it was when they were looking for maybe it was the Horcruxes. No, that's not right. Okay, who's the Harry Potter fans out there in the chat? When Luna's dad had it on the pages of the book, and somebody had, I think he was wearing it on a chain too, a medallion kind of thing, had the same image on it. But that is a symbol of completion. Yeah. Yeah. The tetrahedron triangle, also known as the Trinity. And when we do the unity breath meditation, that last Tuesday of the month, the Trinity, we call it the Holy Trinity right here on Earth, is when you have the love of Grandmother Earth, the love of Grandfather Sky, and they come to you and they meet inside you at your high heart. That's creating the Holy Trinity right here on Earth, is how we say that. And that is the triangle. The triangle. Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. Yes, the Deathly Hallows. That was it. I knew it wasn't the Horcruxes, the Deathly Hallows. Exactly. And there was a symbol that was used for that. And I know it's not the exact same symbol, but that's the essence of it, or the use of it, I should say, is what I was trying to get at. All right, so this card was in the female position, right? And so that it's about the emotions and the intuition that we're going to. And so what do these two cards have to do together? Because they came together, right? The Chakana and the triangle. And you couldn't get much different images than these two. And the Chakana was about how the shamans use it to go from the materialistic, or the physical world, to spirit. And the triangle is about completion. So I want to make sure I get that sentence right. Francine writes that that the card denotes movement towards strength and completion. You're moving a long life path that puts you in touch with the elements of growth, joy, and freedom. So, growth, joy, and freedom. When we move from the outside in, from the physical world out on the edges to our inner world, to our hearts, is where we can find that peace. We can find, some people would call that spiritual freedom. Yeah, I think that's where I do believe it feels like it to me, that's the message is about, in its wholeness, in its balance between the male and the female energies, is that it's about moving from your physical world, your physical self, right? And moving inward towards your heart, your soul. And that we are walking our soul path, our spirit path. We are working on our soul contracts. And that in the completion of those, in that completion of movement inward to the heart, is there is that completion of joy, peace, and freedom. It's about growth, soul growth. It's about soul growth, and we're always talking about that, right? I don't know how you guys feel about that. These two cards, the essence, these two cards coming together to give us a message for today. That's what I got from it. Is that it's that movement, a movement from the physical to the spiritual, from the physical to our hearts, from the physical to our soul, and understanding at our core that we're on the right path. You might not feel like it. You might not think it. Some people think that it has to be, this grand, I don't know, kind of like Hollywood movies kind of stuff, our soul contract. Sometimes almost all the time, it's in the smaller movements. It's in the daily stuff that goes on. That is our spiritual life, the things that we're here to learn about and to use our gifts to create, to experience this life through our gifts. And if we're not using our gifts, then we're really not experiencing the life we're meant to experience, right? And so, yeah. These two cards for today. I like it. I enjoy sacred geometry anyway. Sacred geometry. And you know what? The Chakana card, this one, I don't know when I'm going to fit it in, but I am going to use this particular design for something. I don't know. I might put it on a drum head. I don't know. I haven't done beadwork in a really long time. But it would be something to put on a bag or something like that. Yeah. That movement. It's a shamanic, as she puts it, it's the shamans in South America. I'm sure they don't use that word to call themselves, but it's that movement from the outside in. I like it. So, with that, remember, whatever we heard today, whatever we talked about, shared, is to, if it resonated with you, yay, grab it, hold on to it, learn what you need to learn from it. And watch how the energy unfolds for you today, and how the essence of those cards, where do you see it in your day? Where do you feel it unfolding? Yeah. And if it didn't resonate with you or any part of it, that's okay. That's all right. Maybe it wasn't meant for you. Maybe you are the messenger, or maybe we're just planting seeds. I don't know. At any rate, no matter what, if you wouldn't mind doing something for me, is sharing the video, that would be helpful. I keep forgetting to ask that because it's, as Elise would say, it's Neshi's non-show. I still haven't named it. And I keep forgetting to ask for you guys to share it out. Because really, it's, for me, it's a time for us to meet and to share some spiritual information, some insights. I feel sometimes like we're sitting around my dining room table, we're just having a cup of tea or a cup of coffee together, and we're just chatting, getting to know each other, right? Having a good conversation, Maybe learning a couple of things. Jocelyn says, I like that. Me too. So enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll see you back here tomorrow morning with the card draw. And, one of these days, I'm actually going to do a live stream. I'm going to use my phone and show you guys around the academy a little bit, because I'm hoping we're going to be starting the next step in the renovation. And so I thought you guys might like to see that. Yep. All right. So enjoy your day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow, okay? Bama Mina, that means until we see each other again in Potawatomi. Love you guys.